My name is Alexandre Pacheco da Silva. I'm a law professor at FGV Direito SP. I'm here with Professor Olivier Sylvain from Fordham Law School, who is here with us this week to teach a short-term course called Regulating Unlawful Bias in Artificial Intelligence as a part of our school global law program. Olivier is a professor of law at Fordham University and a senior policy research fellow at Columbia University's Knight First Amendment Institute. His research focuses on information and communications, law and policy, with recent work on online intermediary liability, commercial surveillance, and artificial intelligence. He teaches courses including legislation, regulation, administrative law, information law, and U.S. data protection and privacy. Thank you very much to be part of our program, Professor, and I'm very happy to be with you today.
It's been a great honor to have been invited and to meet the community here. It's been a real thrill.
So, as a first question for today, I'd like to speak about your course and the topic that you selected for discuss with our students. So, this week you taught an intensive course on bias in artificial intelligence. And could you share why the debate around algorithm bias has become so central today, especially as AI systems play a role in decisions in areas such hiring, credit, healthcare, education? And it would also be great if you could mention some of the discussions that emerge with the students and how you interact with them. What were the things that they share with you during the classes? That would be wonderful.
Well, let me start by saying that I had no expectation one way or another about how the class would run, and I've been extremely impressed, as you've heard me say before, with the students in the class, some of whom have technological backgrounds, many of whom have strong interests in public policy and strong opinions, and all of that makes for just a really robust classroom discussion, which I really love. And try to foster in the United States, but it's been relatively easy here. You said it. I mean, AI is an important issue. Let me say at the outset that I had offered your colleague Marina a couple of possibilities, things I could to teach, but there was no question that it would be on AI and AI bias. The reason it's important is at least because there is an ongoing conversation around the world, but especially in the United States these days, about whether there should be any regulation of AI at all. You can understand where this comes from. There is a view that this is a new technology that we shouldn't impair, that there are opportunities for all kinds of data processing and commercial uses that would get in the way of innovation and change. On the other hand, what I've said and I've written about is, you wouldn't necessarily want to repeat the errors of the past, where forbearance on regulating new technologies presents opportunities, but also has evidenced some real perils. And I think of social media in this regard, and I don't need to say much more about that, other than observe that social media is a complicated part of our public life, even as wonderful as it can be. We can do the same in the context of AI. AI is embedded in just about every aspect of life now. We can say even more about this. It isn't just AI, it's computational processes have been with us forever. AI presents new opportunities for discovering new patterns and delivering services that have never been possible before. In my mind, this is a reason we should be especially alert to what is possible, and the students have been very interested in talking about this. We've talked about emergent norms around the world. A lot of these are coming from Europe and the EU's AI Act. Brazil is ahead of the US in many regards with regards to comprehensive considerations of AI regulation, particularly given the position I've shared with you with how people feel about this. And some people feel about this in the US. But there are emergent norms even in the US, and that's what we've been talking about. We've been talking about vetting AI systems before they're commercially deployed as a reasonable safeguard. Another reasonable safeguard is ongoing oversight, human oversight of an AI system, which imposes a legal obligation on the developers and the vendors of AI systems. And then we've been talking about outcome harms. What are the mechanisms to evaluate whether there is bias? You evaluate whether there are disparate impacts or statistically disparate impacts. And that's stuff we've been talking about. It's been really, really interesting. And it's fun to discuss because none of this is quite just settled yet.
That's very interesting, especially because one thing that we discuss a lot with our students here, our undergrad students and our postgrad students, it is what are the problems, what would be the harms that we are trying to avoid. But a lot of those discussions come with a question from our students that usually mention, okay, I understand that there is a problem. I understand that AI and, as you mentioned, computer systems are a part of our life. But one of the things is what we can do about it. What would be the measures to mitigate the effects? What would be the possible solutions in terms of, not only in terms of new legislation, policy, but in terms of how companies should be more adequate to deal with those problems. So considering this complexity, especially in terms of bias, and the current global race, because I'm mentioning the global race to actually develop the best next thing, because a lot of companies are competing with each other to be in front of this, to win this race. One thing that for me it is important to actually hear from you, Professor, it is what would be realistic and effective in terms of measures that could mitigate the effects of those technologies, especially AI system. And one thing that I'm especially interested in, it is that what type of measure do you consider that will be able to be implemented by companies that are trying to win that race? We mentioned a lot of them. For example, human oversight, as you mentioned before, auditing, institutional governance, trying to work early with data sets. We have a lot of them. Right. But what it is realistic in terms of what we can do as a society? It's
a really interesting question because part of the question is asking what is it that companies are comfortable doing given that they want to be ahead of the curve, being that they want to be the winners in this high-stakes market. And my answer to this may be too simple in some regards, but I think my answer must be right. And that is we can't trust that these decisions will originate and end with the companies. This is another way of answering the question of whether regulation is appropriate in this space. As I've said in other settings, the way one engenders a sense of social obligation, one engenders a sense of concern about impact is by requiring it under law. And that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to follow, say, the European model that codifies everything as a matter of course. I actually tend to think that's not a bad idea. But at a minimum, there has to be some legal mechanism that puts guardrails and points the way forward for companies, because I do not think it is original or native to them. And the quickest thing that you can look to is just yesterday, in early November 2025 here, where organizations on behalf of families have sued OpenAI for the extraordinary harm that it's caused to young people. These are companies that were not mindful about the sycophancy, the dependency that young people develop. And not just young people, by the way, this lawsuit is also about adults. The dependency that people develop with their relationship with AI. They were not thinking about this because they were so eager and quick to get these models out and commercialized. That was a mistake on their part because they're vulnerable now legally. And I think as a matter of course, we should not be afraid to think about guardrails in the first instance and not wait for them to implement them.
It's wonderful to hear. And I would like to switch to another topic that is related, but that is not in the field of bias and discrimination in terms of AI. That is something that we, as professors and our students in the law school, are actually feeling this idea that we need to catch up quickly in terms of adopting a new technology, thinking about what would be the future of teaching and classrooms, not only in the professor's perspective, trying to figure out what to teach, but also working with the anxiety that our students are developing. Mm-hmm. And my question for you, Professor, it is in this new environment, when professors are thinking about how they could actually redesign the classroom, redesign the materials, and the students definitely are unsure about their role in the world and in the future. What is your message, or what message would you offer to our students and students from other universities about their future? And what message would you offer to our faculty as they are trying to redesign legal training and trying to think about what they will teach?
You honor me with this question on the theory that I am a real technologist. I don't think, I'm still someone who's fumbling with my phone and its buttons and tricks. So I'm not sure I'm the right person to be clear about how to integrate AI in any given class, or what students should be thinking about in terms of how the particular technology will impact them. But I do have a view that maybe will be interesting to you all here, and it's certainly something that I like to share elsewhere. And that is, just to borrow from another scholar, that AI is a normal technology. It is a disruptive technology, but it is a normal technology. That is to say, in the way that electricity changed the world, the way the internet changed the world, AI will change the world, but we still have to think about its integration and who is responsible for that. What that requires is critical thinking, critical engagement, a sophistication about our politics and our law, and none of that is AI specific. So I think this is an extraordinary opportunity. I don't want to discount that. I think, however, that this moment feels disruptive when it is probably not unlike many other experiences in human evolution. And we just have to be unafraid of integrating our long-standing public law norms: equality, justice. Those are the ones that come to my mind. Innovation will come. I tend to think that innovation is a second-rate or third-rate public law priority. If there's an opportunity, innovators will find it. What we ought to be thinking about critically, as the technology emerges and people start using it, is how do we assure that it's part of our lives? And that's what makes being in a law school so exciting, right? I mean, to work at a law firm, to counsel clients, to think about this new technology in light of our long-standing public law norms, that's very exciting. So I try to be positive about this. I don't want to disclaim that things are changing, but the critical thinking, the commitment to justice, those things can't go away.
Thank you once again, Professor. It was an honor, not only interesting answers that you actually provide to us, but it's been an honor to have you with us during this week, and having this privilege to have you with our students during this week. So thank you again for sharing your insight with us. And I think this conversation highlights how crucial the topic is to shape responsible and informed decisions in societies. And I truly am grateful to have you in our program with us and with our faculty.
No, I'm the lucky one. I feel very lucky, and I have one regret, and that is I don't speak Portuguese. You've honored me by speaking English, and maybe next time I will do better.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you for having me.